Qu'Appelle. Paitucha ama Qu'Appelle. Wayne Goodwill is my name, and my First Nation name gives away the war bonnet. We're going to do lesson 5 today, words. And there were already words put down here, and all they need is the Dakota words to it. Here we'll start from the first part. Good day. Apetu washte. Apetu washte. It's good to see you. Yupia washte wadake. Yupia washte wachiake. Washte wachiake. You have a good day. Apetu washte yuha. Apetu washte yuha. Good morning. Ampa washte. Ampa washte. Good afternoon. Wichoka washte. Wichoka sampa washte. Good night. Haepi washte yuhapo. Haepi washte yuhapo. This day. Apetu de. Abetu de. Tomorrow. Achanaka. Achanaka. Yesterday. Hetan hana. Hetana hana. I made a little error there. Chtaneha. Chtaneha.
Can you say that again?
Chtaneha. Yesterday. Chtaneha. Spring day. Wetu apetu. Wetu apetu. Summer day. Bedoketu apetu. Bedoketu apetu. Fall day. Ptan. Ptanyetu apetu. Ptanyetu apetu. Winter day. Wineatu apetu. Wineatu apetu. Winter day. North. Waziata. Waziata. South. Itokare. Itokare. East. Wiohiapata. Wiohiapata. West. Iochbeata. Iochbeata. Inside. My head. My head. Outside. Tankad. Tankad. On top. Akan. Akan. Below. Ihukuya. Ihukuya. Happy. Iokpi. Iokpi. Sad. Chante Shicha. Chante shiche.
Is that like bad heart?
Yeah, that's what it translates to.
But feeling bad too is chante shiche. Sick. Woyuza. Woyuzake. Well. Diane. Diane. Lazy. Kuje. Kuje. Lonesome. Lonely. Chante shiche. Chante shiche. Sorry. Chante shiche unshni. Chante shiche unshni. Tired. Watuka. Watuka. Drunk. Witko. Witko. Sleep. Estima. Estima. Get up. Kikta. Kikta. Love. Washtedake. Washtedake. Cherish. Someone. Tewachide. Tewachide. Cry. Chair. Chair. Laugh. Hija. Hija. Walk. Money. Money. Sit down. Iutaka. Iutaka. Stand. Naji. Naji. Run. Ianka. Ianka. Kick. Nachtake. Nachtake. Look. Iwanke. Iwanke. Listen. Anach umpo. Anach umpo. Good or well. Washte. Washte. Bad. Shicha. Shicha. Fast. Duza. Duzaha. Slow. Khahi. Khahi. Sing. Doa. Doa. Talk. Ia. Ia. Talk to me. Ia. Shout. Ba. Ba. Be quiet. Enina. Enina. Lie down. Iwunka. Iwunka. Big. Tanka. Tanka. Horse. Shunka waka. Shunka waka. Small. Tistina. Tistina. On top. Akan. Akan. If. Kihan. Kihan. Stop. Inaji. Inaji. What's that?
Yeah.
Inaji. Oh, you forgot to
Yeah.
stop?
There we go.
I don't know where I'm at.
Go.
Go.
Go away.
Here.
Oh.
No.
Oh. Yeah. Go. Yeah. 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 Go away. Iaio. Iaio.
The Anishinaabe say, go on.
Shoot. Go away. Iaio. The old fella used to say that in Wood Mountain. Akoyao, he used to say. Akoyao, he used to say. Over there, Hechia. Go over there, Hechia Yawo. Yeah, I'm right. Yes. Hechia Yawo. Use your lip.
Yeah.
You gotta use your lip.
Use your bottom lip. Don't point too far.
You're taking them to the Northwest Territories with it.
Watch out. Watch out. Awanke. Awanke.
Okay.
Awanke. Oh. And said, watch out.
Wakta.
Wakta. Yeah. Watch out. Wakta. Turn over.
Turn around. Turn around.
Iuha.
You home.
Iuhomini. Iuhomini. I don't know. Stodwaishni. Stodwaishni. I do know. Stodwaye. Stodwaye. Right. Akapre tranaha. Akapre traha. Left. Chakda. Chakda. Hokshina. Baby. Hokshina. Twins. Chakpapina. Chakpapina. Boy. Hokshina. Hokshina. Girl. Wichinchana. Wichinchana. Two-spirited. Wichakna. Wichakna. Mom. Mother. Ina. Ina. Dad. Ate. Ate. Grandmother. On the woman's side is Kunshi. Kunshi. On her grandson's side, Unchi. Unchi. Grandfather, Tokanshi. Tokanshi. People. Wichasha. Wichasha. Old man. Wichashana. Wichasha. Na. Wichashana. Wichachana. Wichachana. Man. Wichasha. Wichasha, woman, Wia, woman, Wia, Henana. How me talk epi? A pes que de unka uyo happy de tatanka iutika icheapi. Today I'm gonna talk about a grandfather to us, and he's called Sitting Bull, a medicine man and a chief of the Hunkpapa tribe of the Lakota 7 campfires. Many years ago, my grandfather was telling me stories about Sitting Bull and other great leaders, and he told me that he thought that Sitting Bull was born around the Frenchman River in Saskatchewan. That's why he knew the territory real good. And he was a medicine man, and he could foresee different happenings that went on back in them days. And he was a well-known medicine man, and them days their medicine was real strong and good. They had good medicine, and that was their survival, to have a good medicine man. So he was a leader and a warrior. He calls himself an Akichita. An Akichita were warriors. And I guess that's what I knew when he was young. And his dad was named Sitting Bull. And he gave his name to his son. That's how Sitting Bull got his name. Before that, he was named, they call him Chahi, slow, because he was slow moving and he wasn't a very active guy. I don't know, that's what they explained to me and told to me. But anyway, when he was around 16, he got his vision, and he learned the secrets of all the Sioux way, and went to Sundance and got his vision. He took his sacrifice, and he became a medicine man. And he earned a pipe passed down from his grandparents, which is the traditional way. It's always a pipe passed down through the families until today, anyway, as far as I know. And it was many treaties he went to. In the Black Hills was one of the last ones in 1868. And they settled that United States wasn't going to bother the Black Hills, and they were going to leave the Sioux all the land, most of South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, for the Sioux Indians to live forever and ever. And but gradually they were sneaking into the land, and the Bozeman Trail opened up since they found silver in Oregon. So they made a Bozeman Trail, and they started putting up forts, and of course they were trespassing. So the Sioux went south, and they stayed practically south. They no more migrated to the north as they did year after year to southern Saskatchewan, for they followed the buffalo to hunt. And they did sacred rituals and put up effigies and teepee rings and medicine wheels, all kinds of different designs, signs that they used in them days on the high country along the border. That's why the border is called a medicine line. It didn't mean the border. It meant all the holy places that the Sioux left behind and caches. Thousands of cache places and medicine wheels and teepee rings and all that are all in the high country, mostly in the pasture where it was left untouched by ranchers. Anyway, one day they moved down to the Bozeman Trail and they had a big fight, and the army was sent out to, they were claiming that they made a smaller reserve, and the ones that left the reserve, they were going to be classified as hostiles. So I guess they got a big army together, about 1,000 soldiers, and they started marching west along the Yellowstone River and looking for so-called hostile Indians, and they ran into some at the Rosebud, and they had a fight there, and then they left. The Indians were gone, so they kept moving forward northward, westward, and here finally they came upon the big encampment there of Sioux Indians. And there weren't only Lakotas, there was also Nakotas and Dakotas that were camped there. And I always remember them telling me, my grandfather, Joe Goodwill, he used to say there was one of the biggest warriors of the Nakotas his name was Inkpaduta, was Red Tip is his English name. But he came out of Minnesota and he stayed around Fort Yates, and moved into up to the Missouri River and stayed around Poplar, Montana area there, Fort Peck Reservation. And when this gathering was going on, Inkpaduta took his warriors down there too. And then they were all camped along the river, they said, and the Hunkpapas were on the south end, and then in between there was Inkpaduta, and then there was Miniconjous and all these other Sioux who were going north. There was about 5 to 1,000 tents there, in which they said they averaged around 3 or 4 warriors in each, and totally people, there must have been about 10,000 people maybe. Anyway, Reno attacked from the south, and he said that Custer came down the ravine there and attacked from the north end, and Custer was supposed to wait for the rest of the army, but he didn't. He went ahead and took his crew, and they got to the river, and you know how they dismount, and they were starting to shoot in. They weren't even planning on taking too many prisoners, so they started shooting. And here they were met by the Sioux warriors, and they started shooting back. And my grandpa said there was hardly any guns, but they had a lot of weapons, such as bow and arrows. So they were shooting them, and they seen a bunch running to the river, so they all jumped on their horses, and then they chased Custer up that hill. And that's how they surrounded him, and they said they figured that Gall and Crazy Horse attacked from the north. They went around that hill, the ridge, and they came up that ridge there with about 200 warriors, and Custer couldn't make a move because the rest were all below him, so they made a last stand there, and they just wiped him out. And they say, about the time it takes a a hungry man to finish his dinner. He said that's how long it took to finish the battle. Meanwhile, on the south end, Custer was, Reno was there attacking, and they had a fight there. And that's where my great-grandfather was with Reno. Attacked Reno there. And that's where Sitting Bull's band of Hunkpapas fought. And my great-grandfather on my mother's side, his son died there. His name was Black Moon, pardon me. Black Moon, and he was killed on the first charge they said they made, and he was shot there. So he died there, and then Sitting Bull didn't go to the battle. He stayed in a camp, and he was warning the people of what to do. And one of my grandfathers on my grandmother's side was there. His name was Red Bear. Matho. He was fighting one of Sitting Bull's warriors, and he fought there. And they chased Reno up that hill, and they surrounded them there, and there was no trees or nothing. They had to shoot their animals for breastwork, and they were laying behind, and some of the Sioux Indians climbed a hill, and they were laying there, and they peep out, and they were shooting them one by one. They were killing these soldiers that were hiding behind these horses. And finally, somebody said the word not to shoot anymore, so they all went off the way, and they raced towards Custer's Hill there, and they found out that those guys were all wiped out already. So my grandmother was about 6, 7. She said all the women started running up that hill, and they were taking off boots and cutting off the high tops of the boots for leather and some of the clothing. And of course they stripped them right off, and they cut them all up with knives, and so that they won't be able to have kids in the next world. A lot of those things were done because they were so mad. Their husbands were dead in previous wars, and their sons. So they took it out of the men that were all killed there. They cut them all up, and my grandfather said, when you look back, he said, with all their white bodies laying there, he said, they're just like that hill was shining, he said, with bodies. And that's the way they left it. And they moved back to the camp. They broke camp immediately, and they headed for the Bighorn Mountains. So I went into Wyoming, and I climbed the Bighorn Mountains, and I went up there, and there was a teepee medicine wheel. And you go there as a First Nation, and you're allowed to drive right to the top. So the officer let us go right through, and we parked the car, and we just walked up about 200 yards, and the medicine wheel was there. And from there you can see the Yellowstone Mountains. And it's huge, and all it is the little trees that are there are just full of offerings. People go there and they pray and they put offerings there, and you're the highest place in the country. And you can see the mountains over there across the valley. About 100 and some miles, you can see them plain as day. And I came back and I looked down to the north, and there was a nice big flat there. I figured if I was living in them days, this was the place to camp, and they must have made a camp down there. And they came up there, and they had no trees, so they made this medicine wheel. The medicine wheel was made 4 corners, a tail, and a head of a big turtle. And when they prayed in these 4 corners and at the head, and a tail, and then all them spokes that they had going to the center, those were all used by these prayer people, and they'd pray and they'd stand in those, in the medicine, in those spokes, I could say. And I imagine that they all went and they prayed to that center where there was a big hole there dug. Somebody must have dug it out or something. There could have been a big tree there or something. Anyway, they took that and then the rest of the army was looking for them, but they couldn't find them. So in my mind, they must have went over the mountain and they went towards Yellowstone. And by going that way, it was in June and the river was not as deep. So they went across with men, women, and children. They crossed the Yellowstone River and then they headed towards Helena, Montana. And then the Judith Basin. And from there they made it towards Rocky Boy. You can see the Bear Buttes. And they made it through there, and from there you can see Canada, and you can see to the north there, you can see the high hills of maple, Cypress Hills. And you can see where Wood Mountain Hills were, so they left and they went towards Wood Mountain. And that's where they crossed. But my grandpa, Chief Black Moon, was the first one to cross with his band. And then later on there were some other bands. Pretty soon they said there was about 3,000 to 4,000 Sioux people that were camping in those areas. And Welch came there and he came to see Sitting Bull and told him, Sitting Bull said, well, he wants to talk to him and stay in Canada. He wanted peace. And yet there was one of the army wanted to come into Canada and get Sitting Bull back into the United States. And they had a big meeting in Fort Welch at the fort there. And they had a court, more or less. But since the army was trespassing, they weren't able to take them as prisoners. So they left, and but as the winters went by, it was pretty harsh. I guess there was no more buffaloes. There was no more, hardly any more deer and other small games was left. So I imagine all they lived on was porcupine, rabbits, and few elk that was left, antelopes. And one day they made friends with Leger. He ran the trading post in Wood Mountain, and he was supplying the Sioux but the government told him they'll pay him for whatever he supplied, so he was supplying them with flour and other things, beans or whatever, I guess, and giving them ammunition to hunt. And I guess one day he was curious to say that Sitting Bull was a great medicine man and stuff, and that he has special powers. So he wanted to see it. So I guess he told Sitting Bull, if you show me some magic tricks, I'll let you have some food. So he said, okay. And he was going to do it, and he looked around, and here there was a hawk flying there not far from the place there. He was soaring around, so that he pointed at it, and here that hawk went twirling and fell down. So he told this young boy, go get that hawk. So that boy ran over there and picked it up, ran back, and gave it to Sitting Bull, and Sitting Bull took it. So old Lajar looked at it, and he said, "It's not the hawk that fell." He said, "Look, it's old. There's maggots on it." And Sitting Bull folded a bird up with his wings close, and held him like this. He sang a little song and he was whistling, and all of a sudden he just threw it up in the air and that hawk flew away. There, he said, you see that? And that old man said, yeah. So he gave him a bunch of groceries. And yeah, he came to Fort Qu'Appelle and he left some of the Sioux there. Some ran off to the north and they lived in different bands. Wahpeton and Moose Woods, they call it that time, but it's Whitecap. And they got married and they took wives over there and they stayed there and they stayed in there as reserves. So a lot of them were mixed here and some went to Manitoba. And then when his daughter decided to go back to the States, she left while Sitting Bull was trying to see Welch in Fort Qu'Appelle, but he didn't get to see him because he already left for the East. So he came back and they said in Qu'Appelle there was a big rancher there, big farmer, and the Sioux went there and they went and stopped by there and he gave him something to eat and some food, I guess. So they said they gave him a horse. They gave that guy a horse and they said that claimed that was Custer's horse. So they gave that horse to that rancher. And and it's in a history book someplace, in Qu'Appelle history. And that's how they got some food, but by the time some of the warriors wanted to stay, they stayed on Standing Buffalo, and then Sitting Bull only went back with a few of his warriors. By the time he got back to Wood Mountain, he found out his daughter left, so he said he was going to leave. So they took him on the next train, a bunch of wagons all load up all the women, and the warriors all went by, and I guess they took away all their horses and their guns at Fort Benton, Fort Buteford. They took away all their weapons and they put them on this flatboat and sent them all the way down to Fort Yates, North Dakota. But they took Sitting Bull and they put him in jail for 2 years. So he won't do any more warring and anything. So he came out and he built a cabin for his wife, and he was asked to go on a show with Wild Bill Hickok or somebody. The show that was going to go all over the country, so he did, and he went to Washington and different places, and he was earning money for his family. And he came home, and that time they started a ghost dance, and this old Indian agent thought Sitting Bull was starting that up. So he sent his Indian brave warriors out as police to capture Sitting Bull, and it was dawn yet, and they got there, they hammered at the door, and he didn't open it, so they pushed it open, and Sitting Bull got up and he was going to come out, and I don't know, they thought he was going to reach for his gun, so they shot him. They killed him right there in his house. And he had a nice picture that somebody painted of himself, and this one young guy took a sword and made a slash on it. And today I went and looked at it a few years ago out in Bismarck, and you see that picture there where they fixed it. They patched it up, and it's still hanging in Bismarck, and along with his buffalo robe that came to Saskatchewan here last winter, and I was able to see it. A wonderful painting. And I think he used that when he was praying, because he did some old sacred drawings on there. So those are some of the stories we were told, and some of the ones that stayed in Canada made up the people that stayed in Canada, lived around Moose Jaw in the winter, and then they went hunting down south in the summer. And the treaties were made here in Saskatchewan in 1876. And they didn't include the Lakotas, so they just stayed around Moose Jaw and went hunting for till 1914. So since 76, I think they hunted around 40 years without a treaty and just roaming around in the south, living their old ways right till 1914. Finally, they gave them a reserve, so they moved back. And they said they had a lot of horses. They had over 500 horses, how many band members. And they made up a reserve, and that's how we have the Lakota band. And they got a reserve and a band number. And that's where there was just a small band, and I think there was only 14 families there one time. Now I think there's maybe only about 7 living on a reserve. So they don't have trouble for houses over there. So that's about it today. So thank you for listening, and DAKHÓTA
IÁ.